Good evening, folks. Welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon. I am a retired New York City police detective with 20 plus years of law enforcement. And if you like all things true crime related from a police perspective, please consider hitting the subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you will get all things DutyRon when I go live or upload another video. Tonight, we're going to talk about Don Wells, the father of Summer Wells, missing since June 15th. Over in Hawkins County, Tennessee, in the Beach Creek community. We all are invested in this. We want to get to the bottom of what happened to Summer Wells. He was arrested and sent to jail for 11 months and 29 days. He also needs to do a 28-day detox. We're going to get into that with our two professionals, Anthony from Tier Talk and Connie from the Civilian Corrections Academy, and also a co-host with Anthony. These two are correction specialists. But before I get into it with them, I want to say a special thank you to the Patreon supporters, the channel members, and all of the folks who positively engage in this community. You guys are an intricate part, an important part to making this a great place. And I appreciate, love, and respect you guys all. You're fantastic in the comments. You guys sent in a lot of questions about tonight's show. We're going to get into everything Don Wells and Hawkins County Jail. What is going on? What is his next 180 days going to look like? I'm going to bring on my guests. They are, again, they're no slouches. They know everything about the correction business. They're professionals, and they are here with us tonight. So introducing first, who's ready? I saw the camera went out. Ant, I don't know if you're ready. If you can give me a thumbs up, I'll put you on. All right, Anthony Gangi, the Gange, the man, the myth, the legend from Tier Talk. Thank you, Ant.
Thank you for having us, Ron. It's a pleasure, and thank you guys for taking the time to listen to us. We appreciate it, and again, always an honor to be on your show, Ron. Appreciate you.
Likewise, brother. Likewise. And here she is, Connie. Alleyne, Civilian Corrections Academy, your favorite. She's a fan favorite. I got to tell you, Anthony, if I shut the camera off and it was just Connie, she would steal the show. Connie, how are you?
No way. I'm doing great. I'm so glad to be here. I have such a good time with your audience. I am certainly looking forward to however we could add value to this discussion.
Right. So I'm going to set it up really quick before we dive into this thing. I set up just briefly about what we're going to talk about. The show premise tonight is Don Wells. He is just about my age, around 50, 57, 58 years old. He's a 1964 born baby. But this guy has been just acting like a fool up in East Tennessee. I'm going to play for the audience because some of the folks who are outside of the country might not have a complete grasp on what happened here. This is going to be what led up to Don Wells being remanded by the judge on the 7th, just early this week. So I'm going to play real quick this first piece. And this, again, is from November 1st. This is the air date. It's just going to give everybody a good idea of what we got going on with this character. And let me tell you, he is a character. He's just all over the place, and he just can't seem to get it right. So let's play this fast so everybody can just get a peek at what's going on.
5-year-old. Breaking news at 12:30, the father of a missing 5-year-old, Summer Wells, arrested twice in 3 days, the second time for violating probation. Thanks for joining us. I'm Casey Marler. Don Wells was initially arrested Saturday on several charges, including driving under the influence. While in court for hearing on those charges this morning, Wells was arrested for violation probation. ABC Tri-Cities' Ansley Daniel was in court this morning and explains what happened. Ansley?
Casey, Donald Wells was immediately booked in and out of the Hawkins County Jail after being arrested during his arraignment this morning following his DUI arrest over the weekend. I'm told that he bonded out on an OR bond, which is also known as being released on his own recognizance. That's where a person is released after promising in writing to appear in court for all upcoming proceedings without posting bail money. Per the judge, we had to submit a request to be in court 48 hours in advance. However, Wells wasn't arrested until late Saturday night, and a quick order had to be signed for me to even go in with just my pen and notepad. Earlier today in court, though, around 9:20 this morning, Sheriff Ronnie Lawson entered the courtroom. That's when another officer placed Wells under arrest for alleged violation of probation. Following his arrest, Wells approached the podium. He told the judge he wasn't sure how he could keep up with the court expenses along with maintaining child support for his sons. At one point, he said the blood work from Saturday night's arrest would, quote, tell all, and added that he could possibly represent himself, but then he asked for a court-appointed attorney. The judge then asked him when his last day of work was, and he didn't give him a clear answer, but said that he had been working on his house and, quote, things for welfare in order to get the boys back. He also mentioned that he had been doing some, quote, YouTube things to help try and find his daughter. He then told the judge that he was going through a lot of things and a lot of heartache.
Can I just stop it there and say the YouTube things that he's referring to is acting like a jagaloon, acting like a fool. And everybody here knows what those YouTube things, what it entails. I'm going to let the rest of this play.
And would, quote, plead mercy from the court. Boyd appointed Wells a public defender and reset this hearing until February 6th at 1 p.m. to await the blood results from his DUI arrest on Saturday. Neither Judge Daniel Boyd nor Sheriff Ronnie Lawson were available to speak about what happened in court this morning or what happened over the weekend. I did see Donald Wells as he was released, and he declined an interview but spoke with us for a few moments. I'm still waiting on the paperwork for that violation of probation arrest this morning. As soon as we get that, we'll be sure to update you. Live and
All right, so I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm going to play the second piece because it's really short, guys. That's just setting up what led to February 7th, which was just earlier in the week. The second piece is the current piece of what happened when he came back for his return date. And we all know about this. You got a choice. The judge is either going to say remand or he's going to say sentence continued, and then he's going to let him go out on probation. But that's not what happened here. So let's play this second piece and get this going. This is short. This is short and
Hawkins
sweet.
County 6-year-old Summer.
Okay, let's get that going. Bingo.
Summer Wells is in jail tonight after pleading guilty to driving under the influence and violating probation. Don Wells appeared in court this afternoon. He was arrested October 30th for DUI last year while he was still on probation for previous charges of possessing a firearm while he was intoxicated. Our cameras were not allowed in the courtroom, but Bianca Murray was there. Bianca, what happened today?
Well, Josh, Don Wells was taken into custody immediately after appearing in court today, and he was sentenced to serve 11 months and 29 days. However, he may not have to serve the entire sentence since he now faces multiple offenses pertaining to alcohol. Wells may be eligible for probation again after 180 days and the completion of an alcohol rehabilitation program. While in court today, Wells claimed a toxicology screen from the night of the arrest in October returned without evidence of drugs in his system. Wells also said a blood alcohol screening taken that night returned with a level of 0.13. He told Hawkins County General Sessions Judge Todd Ross that he, quote, wanted to get away that night as he and his wife were arguing. He also said that he and his wife are taking classes to regain custody of their sons and that he still works a full-time job. Wells told the judge that his job was in jeopardy because of some protesters showing up at his work. Today, outside the courtroom, we saw a handful of protesters who also showed up. Now, it's important to note that no charges that Wells faced today pertain to his daughter's missing persons case. Now that's 6-year-old Summer Wells, and no charges have been filed for that case. Josh?
An important point. Bianca, I understand you had some interaction with Don Wells before he was taken into custody. What happened?
Well, Josh, I didn't exactly speak with Don Wells today, but while in court today, he did show me a note that he had written, and I'll read it to you now. It says, "Thanks to everyone for all positive support. It's been very difficult."
All right, Bianca Murray, live for us.
And boy, has it been very difficult. And it's been difficult because of all of the actions that this guy's taken. Just all over the internet and all over YouTube, just acting, like I said, without getting into it, acting like a fool. Connie, I wanted to go to you first because we know that he got remanded. Anthony and I spoke about this before we went live. The judge said take charge, violation of probation, not parole, violation of probation. He sentenced them to 11 months and 29 days, but 180 days consecutive with a 28-day detox. Now, I know this is your forte, and that's why I'm going to you first. Don't get offended, Anthony. I know that you're chomping at the bit and you're ready to go, but I think we're going to do it in concession because now he is taking charge. The judge says remand. The court officers take him in. They bring him to the county jail. And what happens from there? It goes immediate to a medical screening, right?
So it would depend. I think if he's in any way still inebriated, then the chances that he would be placed in sort of this medical cell or medical hold, it depends on which facility or the type of holding cell they may have, but certainly he would be placed in there where he would go through the detox process and still be supervised or managed by medical, because we still got to manage all the symptoms that come along with a detox.
Right.
Certainly monitoring for dehydration, for fever, for vomiting, you name it, we monitor for it just to make sure that, the individual doesn't, choke on their vomit, right? Because they can be so drunk. And, Andy and
I wanted to say, not to cut you off because you got so much information. I feel that he went to court. It was in the middle of the day. And that doesn't mean that someone can't be drunk in the middle of the day, but we got to assume that, he went to court sober and didn't show up there drunk. That would not be in his best interest. But, stranger things have happened. I mean, I've seen people in court drunk as well. But I would say that, the odds are that he was clean and sober at the time of sentence. When they said take charge, he didn't go into I would have to think he didn't go into the jail stumbling drunk. But for the judge to say you need to go in a 28-day kind of detox thing, wouldn't that be an indicator that there was cause to show that this guy's a drunk or an alcoholic?
Yeah, so if the individual has a long history of alcoholism, whether it's multiple arrests, DUIs, sometimes based on information that has been presented in court to show that this person would be a better candidate for some sort of alternative to incarceration, because ultimately you can put him in the jail for 180 days. He's probably going to come out and get drunk again. So the goal with like treatment courts and those kind of programs is to try to get that person clean. And sometimes the mandation from the court helps with compliance. Not all the time, but sometimes you'll get people who kind of straighten up because of that. But I mean, it seems like he's got a significant history of alcoholism. And I don't know that 128-day program is going to fix that.
Right. Absolutely. And Anthony, I made a mistake here. I didn't even introduce you guys with your credentials. If you want, please, we got all like 800 some odd people here. Would you just let everybody know? And this is my fault. So the onus is on DutyRon. I screwed up. Anthony, just let some of the folks here know your experience in the correction field.
My name is Anthony Gangi. I have about 20 years in corrections. I started as an officer. I'm now on the administrative side, second in charge of a maximum security prison. And basically, right now, I'm very familiar with pretty much the runnings of a lot of jails and prisons in regards to the best practices that are needed. And also, I do a show called Tear Talk with my partner. I'm calling her partner today because people seem to love her, Connie Alleyne, the smile that makes my life good and great. You go.
Connie, and if you could give a condensed version, because I know that you've done a lot, but just let the folks know that just maybe you're stumbling across this.
Sure. So I'm a health service. I started out as a health services manager on Rikers Island in 2000. I continued on into Connecticut Department of Corrections as prison health services administrator for another 5 years, and now president and founder and president of the Civilian Corrections Academy. So it's just been a long history of working with all populations and all mental health needs behind the wall.
Yeah, you guys do a great, you're great together with information. That's what I love about Tier Talk and everything that you guys do, because it educates folks about what goes on behind the wall and, some of the struggles that corrections officers have, because we take them off the street and then we deliver them into the correctional facilities, and then they now take it from there. So it's a very difficult job, and it's a thankless job that a lot of people don't. I tip my cap to all my correction friends and brothers and sisters that are out there doing the job, the civilians and the officers, because it's a difficult job. Just like the police department, there are so many things that they have to deal with. Anthony, I want to talk to you quickly about Don Wells, a career criminal by a lot of, by a lot of strengths here. He has a rap sheet, pretty extensive. He's been arrested in multiple states. He's done time around the United States. And by his own admission, he's been in and out of the correctional facility his whole adult life. And I'm going based on some of his conversations that I've heard him speak about. What is a, correction officer and then the supervisors, how do they handle this guy? He comes into county jail. You want to just talk about that?
Yeah. So the first thing is times are a little different. So he's mandated programs from the court. So the facility itself has to make sure that we do what he can to get programs. But having said that, we're also COVID. So we're very limited with in-person programming right now. So there's a lot of adjustments in regards to staffing right now and how we can accommodate stuff that are from the court, especially if the courts aren't communicating with the facilities. So if you have a court system right now that's like, yeah, we got to get this inmate program, they may not understand that the inmate that the facility right now is limited on resources. So for an inmate like this, or when he comes into the system, the first thing that has to happen is that we have to make sure. So are we talking about intake and booking? Because
because he's going to be a new intake into the county jail in Hawkins County.
Right. So right off the bat, what's going to happen is he's got to go through a process where we have to balance safety and security as well as the well-being of that inmate, because he is now in our custody and care. I'm going to emphasize the word care because a lot of people may not think that we care, but our job is to care. So with that said, we have to find a way to balance safety and security. And thank you, Fed Up. I appreciate that. With the gentleman's safety. And I'm using the word gentleman because obviously times have changed. So
we
right off the bat,
term very loosely. We can
I'm using it very loosely, guys. But bear with me, guys. I have to always remain objective because in my profession, I can't show a bias. So even certain words that could be condescending could be seen as a bias in how I make a decision. So with that said, when the person goes through the system, they're going to go through a bunch of security checks, which includes definitely the checking of anything metal, weapons, cell phones. And usually that's going to be multiple times. We're not just talking about pat frisk. We're talking about Bosch chairs. Bosch chairs is the thing that scans the whole body for anything medical. Now, if the gentleman is coherent, you could speak to him.
So
we can continue the booking.
Before you continue, Ant, the Bosch chair, that's the chair that looks like the electric chair, right?
Yeah, it does. So basically, yeah, you're right. So basically what they do is you have the inmates sit down first, and it's going to do a whole scan of their body, but then they get around and they put their mouths on it and kind of, move there just to make sure they're not hiding anything. And that's for the metal that we can't see most of the time. And with that said,
I remember at the Essex County Jail, it was right there. As soon as you walked into the intake, there was like two of them right there as you walked in. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
So what's going to happen right off the bat is you're going to want, if the inmate or the person, I don't want to say inmate because they haven't been convicted yet. So the person coming in, the booking is going to be exactly what Connie said. We got to develop a history, see what this individual is about. Now, mind you, someone that has a drinking concern is going to be seen as an alcoholic who has problems. It could be seen as a sickness. So with that said, that's going to be developed. That's going to be during his booking. You're going to find that out during his history when he answers the questions, if he's able to do so. If he's not, what's going to happen is, in order to finish the booking process, we're going to have to wind him, putting him on detox until he is sober. And the detox is usually, and Connie may be able to elaborate on this more, it's usually a partnership between medical and mental health. Medical will place him there because of the medical concerns, and then mental health will place him there because of his behavioral concerns. And then once medical clears him, then mental health has to co-sign that, and
Right.
then administration has to sign the discharge.
Let me ask you something,
okay.
Anthony. A lot of people are talking, and there's somebody here. There's probably quite a few people here from that Hawkins County area. I know Tennessee Girl right here. She's a longtime subscriber and a good friend of the community. She sends me information all the time, like little trinkets, little bits and pieces. And she's saying she doubts Hawkins County has anything like that. But listen, if you have a 90-bed facility and you are a county jail, there's certain standards that have to be maintained. And correct me if I'm wrong, there are certain standards that have to be maintained across the board. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
There's standards of care that are across the board, the expectation no matter where you are. And then there's standards of practice. And then there's different levels of accreditation that certain facilities have or certain states have. So they have to maintain a level of service provision for the population no matter what. There are some that are so small that they don't have the capability or capacity. And so when you have these tough intakes that come in, they may immediately get transferred out to another facility who has the capacity to manage their medical or mental health need.
There you go. For me, it was important for me to get that information out there because a lot of folks were saying, we feel that, Hawkins County is a rinky-dink run facility. Like it's almost like everyone's downgrading it. Like he's not going to get, people get caught up on, will he be in like solitary or in protective custody? Now, I want to go to you, Anthony, on that because he is, listen, I'm going to say this. He is a guy who speaks out loud about his idea is that his daughter was snatched off his property or kidnapped by somebody. And there's tons of meth heads and junkies and drug addicts and people who do lots of bad stuff in that area where they live. It's not a great, it's not bad, but it's got its little bits of problems there. So some of these folks that he's been referring since June of 2021, some of their friends or some of the people could be inside this jail on a short temporary stint, right? I think 24 months or above, we go up to the state, right? He's not, I don't think he'll be a hero in that jail. So what goes on with the determination, or what happens? Is it a correction officer that makes the determination, or is it the upper management that now comes in and says, let's do a full overview? I might be getting ahead of myself. Anthony, what's your thoughts on that?
No, you're Ron, 100%. So I wish I could see you instead of doing the Zoom screen because I feel like I'm talking to myself. Can I see you, Ron? Oh, thank you. I just feel more comfortable. It's just your face, Ron. You make me feel at ease.
I just want to tell you why I do that. When I make clips, now my producer's going to get real pissed at me, but I always make I aim to please my brother. So we'll keep it this way.
I need to look at somebody. So, okay. So Ron, 100% you're spot on. I'm sure Connie would probably agree with this. So as administration, once we find out a high profile inmate is coming our way. Yeah, good one. I lost half a face. Once we find out a high-profile inmate's coming our way, we have to make sure that we do protect them, especially an inmate who's going to be high-profile based on their crime. And a crime like this does make them vulnerable with the population because, believe it or not, there are codes in the prison world, or in the jail world. There are certain crimes that are unacceptable, especially crimes to a child of any sort or a sex offense, whatnot. Yeah. So because the crime is still popular now and it's still relevant on the news, you got to be careful because inmates have access to that. They could see it out in the play area, like in the centralized the centralized rec room, stuff like that. So having said that, there has to be an effort to protect that inmate from others as well as himself. Don't forget too, because he's so popular, there are going to be other inmates that want to share in that light. So if I take him out, maybe I'm a hero, so there's so many different ways their mind works. But with that said, administration, in my mind, if I work in a small county and this is a popular crime in the county, I would make recommendations to ship him to another county facility. Right. That would be my first recommendation. That doesn't always happen. because of the cost of let's say housing an inmate of this, because it's going to bring attention now to that other facility. But my first recommendation is, can I get them out to another facility? If I have to house them, or if I go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, no. Just so I'm looking at some of the chat, which I don't usually do, but I'm looking at the chat. Listen, we're speaking in general here. Nobody's saying that Don was accused or has any type of crimes against him, against children. He's in there for violation of probation, but Anthony is talking about in general what is charged to a correctional facility and the officers therein. What is their job and what are they supposed to be doing? And what he's saying is their job is to protect this, this, you don't even call him inmates because he's not been, well, he actually did get
like a detainee.
He was convicted and sentenced. So this is an inmate. This is an inmate, man. This is not a court case that's pending. He violated his probation. He is now sentenced, imposed, and they took charge. So we can get that out of the way. This inmate now, the correction officers and the professional staff, all of the all the executives, all the bosses, if you will, they are now taxed with making sure. And Connie, I know that you're going to be shaking your head, yes, that this inmate serves his time and gets out of that prison in one piece and not dead. Nobody wants an Epstein on their hands. And unfortunately, they look at this because he is now in the public eye because he's all over the media. All of the local media is covering his daughter's missing person case. The two of them are on YouTube nightly. And, it is considered for that area a high profile case, 100%. So I think that it's important that everybody understands that, because they're an inmate, it doesn't mean that they're going to be treated inhumanely. And that's something that I know you two always pound home when you're on with me. A lot of people who aren't fans of this individual or any criminals for that matter, they feel like they should be, down like in those old Pennsylvania prisons where you lower the bucket and you bring the food down to them and then you shut the hatch and you leave them down there with all the the horse hay and you just leave them down there.
Method.
Yeah, I'm like, oh boy.
I've been to a prison, not that it was active, but I went to pick up a prisoner. I forgot where it was, but I have the patch upstairs, and the correction officer took me on a tour. It looked like a horse stable. I'm not even kidding. And it was hatches, just what I described. And it was just, they were down in a hole.
Yeah, back then that was more to get back then those are prisons, probably Puritans, that basically forced the inmates, like they had dependents. They did their time on their own, and all they had was to ruminate for 10 years about what they've done that was wrong. But something you mentioned, if I may, if that's okay, Ron, is that you may hear me say something generalized, guys, but I promise you the generalization is based on best practices that can be applied or should be applied. So again, an inmate like he's an inmate, he's arrested. When they come in, because there is a little fame to this person, we have to make sure that we don't put them in situations where now they get hurt because of our negligence. So right off the bat, we know for a fact that he's coming in with a target already on his back, and we have to do what we can to make sure we mitigate that, because we will be held responsible if something happens to that inmate. And I know sometimes people are like, well, who cares? We're responsible for him. We're responsible for people with the most heinous of crimes. But if something happens to them, guys, taxpayers' money is going to pay for the lawsuit on our failure.
Exactly. So I wanted to walk back and just take a step back, because everybody that's here wants to know what the process is from soup to nuts, right? So from beginning to where he is now. We're talking about it was the 7th that he was remanded. So 3 days into this, Connie, I want to go back to you. Let's assume that he was not in tox, that he was a regular remand from court. What is the process for Don Wells at a facility? Overview, generally speaking, what's the process?
So overview, generally speaking, he's going to come in, he's going to go through the classification process, he's going to be prepared for housing, but he's also going to go through medical and mental health screening. A risk assessment is done on everybody that comes in. That way we know if there's any medical, mental health concerns that need to be addressed. We can be prepared if this person does have anything going on in their body that may not be evident at the time of intake. Once that he gets situated, and he kind of gets his the assessment done, and they decide, okay, well, he's going to need mental health, he's going to need to speak with the social worker, he's going to need to check with medical for this, or he has a chronic disease, he's going to need to go through this clinic. All those appointments are all set up, and then he gets housed, and he's kind of off to the races. Now, in an instance where he might be in protective custody because of his status, or he might be, you know, under a watch, maybe they think he's suicidal based on whatever that assessment is, he may be placed in a different housing unit just so that he's being watched appropriately based on the findings of the assessment. Once that's done, there's really not much else. He's going to serve his time. If at some point they find that he's a risk to himself or others, his status will change and he will be housed accordingly.
Now, that's what I wanted to ask you, because there's lots of speculation. Lots of people feel he's in protective custody, is this, that, and the other. But we know this. It was mandated and ordered by the judge that he does a 28-day detox. Mm-hmm. So on those 28-day detoxes, generally speaking, and I know it's not going to vary widely facility to facility, but in a county jail, if you are remanded by a court-ordered 28-day detox, is he in a tank by himself? Is he in a cell with others detoxing? What's the possibility? What have you seen over your time?
So over my time, I've seen them actually have that person serve their time and put them specifically in a program outside of facility where he's in an inpatient setting where he's complying with the 28-day detox. There are facilities that have the capacity to do the detox internally, and there's an entire medical protocol about alcohol detox internally. And there is a requirement of a lot of documentation to ensure that he is in compliance with all the ins and outs of that detox program that may be internal to facility.
So what you're saying is there is a possibility that they jobbed him out to another correctional facility or some type of facility that's geared up to handle incarcerated detox patients.
Correct.
He wouldn't be going to like a halfway house or some nice place. He's
chances of that are pretty slim. Like there would have to be some other court intervention where that's negotiated. I don't imagine that would happen outside of going back to court after he's already been sentenced.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Because I just wanted to get that. Ant, you got something? I saw you waving.
Yeah. So he wouldn't be eligible for any type of community release at this point. He has to commit to a time. So halfway house wouldn't be optional. So what they would do is they would have vendors, contract vendors maybe come in who serve a substance abuse counselor, or they could have them in their facility. I don't know if this would be a program run by their social service, or it could be a program run by like something similar like a gateway. Right. I don't think it would be something done by mental health because it's a treatment for a drug or alcohol, like an AA type thing. Right. I'm assuming the 28-day thing would be maybe an AA or an NA, that if the facility doesn't provide it, I will guarantee you once it's mandated by the court, they would have to get a substance abuse counselor on site. So there should be programs. So you have to realize something here. You're talking about a jail, which is different than a prison. A jail, it's tough to do programming because you don't know how long someone's going to be there technically. Now, for this guy here, he has 28 days he has to complete. So because he has 28 days, obviously there's something that they can put him into that is a program. So I'm assuming it's going to be like an NA or an AA, and I'm assuming that's going to either be from something that's coming from the facility itself or a vendor coming into the facility.
Right. And circling back on what all three of us were speaking about earlier, for a judge to now put in a sentence that you are requiring a defendant to go into a 28-day, there has to be cause there. There has to be a history. And we know that with Don Wells, In October, he was DWI, but he was charged probably in his past with previous DWIs. They look at his rap sheet, they look at his history, and they look at everything. And listen, if you're on YouTube all day and night, well, especially at night, you're on YouTube at night, don't think that law enforcement, especially in those small remote areas, that they're not looking at it. Here in New York City, they have a computer crime squad, and they have guys who look in Intel division. They look for criminals online. It's common knowledge. But at the end of it all, this guy has been putting his life and his shenanigans, drinking to the point where he can't speak anymore, calling his wife the C word, calling everybody and anybody that goes up against him, a mother and this, that, and the other. And, he's just going off. So I think, courts are not going to use that against him because that's all not admissible. But it is something that they look at when he is showing a pattern of not trying to help himself. All right, let's put that aside. He's now taken in, he's assessed, Connie, by medical. The 28-day process could be potentially in-house, or it could potentially be out of the house. And we'll find out because the news is going to inquire about it. They'll report on it. But it really doesn't matter whether he's in Hawkins County Jail or outside. He's going to be in a jail environment, handcuffed when being transported. The windows are not going to be open where he can listen to the birds and the bees and fresh air coming in. It's not going to be like he's getting served Poland Spring when he wants water. They just go right to the toilet and they scoop the water up and say, "Here you go." I'm only kidding. But so it's not a bed of roses. No one's throwing out roses to him. It's not a great place to be. Jail is not supposed to be like a 5-star hotel. Jail is jail. They make it so it's humane. But Anthony, you're a boss. You talk about the assessment process. Who signs off on where this guy gets housed for the remaining those 180 days? I know the
right. So remember, our number one priority is to rehabilitate this individual. The jails itself have the highest rate of recidivism. So, having said that, we have to do what we can, because if this person gets released, let's say he has a history which was discovered in booking. So now if this person gets released and reoffends, they're going to look back at us. So basically, a lot of stuff that we put into play is liability purposes. So with that said, when it comes to placement, so placement's going to be reviewed by classification based on the details that are discovered through booking, which is going to include his history. Well, it's also part of the intake process too, because the intake process, what they're going to do is they're going to discover first that the person has any warrants. That's one of the things they have to discover first, to make sure that, when we take them in, is there any other county that wants the individual? But we also have to make sure that when we put them in the system, that does this person, wherever we house them, does this person present a risk to others? Are others a risk to them? So the classification process will kind of review everything from his crime to his status, his time. These things should formulate some type of, however they do it, some type of objective scoring that's going to tell you what status this inmate has to be at. And then that status will determine their housing level. Now, for an inmate like this, because he's high profile, that's going to up his score. However they score, this is just in general. But what's going to happen is, based on that could make this person a max custody inmate. Now, having said that, the services that are provided, because the gentleman has 180 days and 28 days served in a detox, if they were going to do it outside, they would have him do the 100-something days first, and then towards the end, he would have to complete the program. They're doing it backwards. They're doing it, he's got to complete the program first, and then he's still got to complete his time. So all that's going to be done 100% inside the facility, because the facility is what's responsible for him right now. So
this is an
I would say
overview.
right now, as administration, I would classify this gentleman based on his crime as a max inmate. That doesn't mean I'm not going to put him next to anybody. I'm just going to be very particular. But I will say this, because he's mandated to take programming, I don't know what the room is like. I don't know, because you got COVID right now, if there are limited spaces, if there's limited staffing, if they're doing in person, if they're doing it, sometimes they could do it virtual. But having said this, my priority is I got to get him a space in that programming. That's the key, because that's the first thing that the judge is pushing on me. That's the first thing that is being pushed by the courts for me to accomplish. So with the housing, I also got to make sure that whatever I do, I can accomplish that mandate.
Right. So what we're looking at here is a satellite view of the Hawkins County Jail. It looks like a 1-floor prison. This is the main building right where my cursor is. We say it's 90 beds. Does that mean 90 double beds or 90 single beds? Does it consist of single cells?
It would be 90. It's 90 beds, because if it was beds are usually the beds, the actual bed count they have, and cells could be different because you could have 2 beds in a cell. So I would assume that's a 90 bed. That means they can hold up to 90 inmates. But with COVID, that may have changed to maybe even half that number.
Right. So, one never knows what they're working with here. But at the end of the day, you say, the priority is to get this prisoner rehabbed and such. The chances are he's going to come back out and just go right back to. I mean, I hope not. I'm not saying that that's what he's going to do. But with this guy's history and his whole lifelong of substance abuse and drinking that we know of, chances are all this money is going to be spent. And somebody said it in the comments. There's people who want to get into rehab and want treatment, and they're not prisoners. There are people who are outside that need this and they can't afford it, or they don't have the insurance, but it's afforded to our inmate population. Yeah, things are ass backwards, but at the end of the day, this is what the court ordered.
You know what another concern is that the courts may not be aware about, that probably no one else thinks about, is that when you work in a jail, stuff happens. So you may think that the person can complete a program in 28 days, but you could have a code in a unit. You could have stuff that happens that stops the program from running. So with that said, a 28-day program may not always be completed in 28 days because the facility could be active, and that could prevent the program from running a certain day or at a certain time.
Here's a look at the tiers inside Hawkins County Jail, and it looks like there is a second floor, right? Doesn't this look like? Oh, maybe not. Up in the top right, and I guess it's not not probably visible to everybody, but it looks like there could be a double tier, but who knows? At the end,
something I just wanted to throw in there, Ron, was that for the person or folks who may question, the access to care and such in facilities, it's not like we're on this feel-good mission, right? Like the 8th Amendment essentially requires that we do not expose anyone to cruel and unusual punishment, right? And so under that falls, if someone is medically ill, mentally ill, if they have oral health issues that could fall into that unusual punishment being inflicted, we have a obligation by the United States Constitution to provide some sort of relief to those individuals, even though they are incarcerated.
Right. And a lot of people have a hard time swallowing that pill. They feel, like I said before, I wasn't being funny, Connie. People are like, oh, well, they did this heinous crime, or they did, they're repeat offenders. Why are we coddling them? Why don't we just throw them in a cell and let them rot? That's not how it works. People have to be treated humanely. And I think that it's important that, this is the difference between professionals and non-professionals. Somebody like yourself and Anthony, you continually pound that home because that's part of your statement and mission of what your job entails. What the job entails is to take care of and make sure that these prisoners get the proper care that they need and that they have under their constitutionally protected rights as well. But, again, you have these heinous criminals that come through there. You want to just see them rot and, suffer the way they did to their victims. But in this case, Don Wells, he's got a guaranteed 180 days. Folks want to get answers like, is he going to have his own cell? Is he going to have a cellmate? Is he going to be able to have people come and visit him? Anthony, what's the status of visitation in your part of the region? I know you don't want to give up the areas that you work in, but what are we looking at, say, in the central part of the United States, the southern? We know that the COVID cases are down south.
Right. So for visits, I would definitely assume within the first 20 days, because the program is intense, you want to have limited outside influence and the chance for him to get something. As well as do anything that's counterproductive to the program, and no different than going on the streets, going out for rehab, and them cutting you off your family for the first 30 days. They mean you can't talk to them, doesn't mean you can't call them.
Right.
But I would definitely stress that at least that first intense period of mandated programming, that they don't get visitors. They can get phone calls or they can make the calls out, but I would not recommend visitors because, again, there could always be that chance that, again, it only takes one moment to set things back. So
Right.
I would be very limited. Also, it depends on the facility. A lot of these programs, because the inmates themselves are technically minimal inmates, they're not inmates that are really high risk. If the problem is, we can maybe try to fix it with programming as a first effort.
Right.
Usually these are dorm settings. Usually you're going to see a bunch of inmates kind of working together because a lot of these programs are community based. So what happens is you basically have a facilitator who is like the counselor, and then usually the support comes from the group. That's what the AA, the NA, it's a community-based program. So to have a program that isolates the individual kind of may defeat what it is that they want the outcome to be. But it depends on I know Connie was agreeing with something there.
Yeah, like, so it kind of, it's the point of those kind of groups is for you to get sort of that support from others who are going through the same situation you're going through, who are also, they can identify with your struggles and understand sort of the path that you're on.
Right. Absolutely. I want to adjust this comment. DutyRon, I mean, he deserves to be in jail for breaking the laws. Yes. However, give the guy a little credit. He did over 20 years with no record. You're all making him out to be a habitual criminal. Listen, Brandy, I respect that comment, but we're not making him out to be any habitual criminal. I am just calling him for what it is. He has, by his own admission, said that he's been in and out of the correctional facilities his whole adult life. Now, just because he didn't commit a crime over a 20-year period, and that's debatable, he's not living his life right. When you are, consuming drugs and alcohol on a regular basis and not getting caught doing it, that doesn't mean that you're a good person. So if you want to be a fan of somebody who lives in this fashion, so be it. Have at it. To each their own. But the last time I checked, it's my channel. We do it together. But I am going to express my opinions on somebody. And if I see someone acting like a scumbag and acting like a subhuman, which that's what he does, he acts subhuman. Go and look at his YouTube rants and all the stuff that he does and how he calls his wife a cunt. Go and see that. And then you tell me that that's a good person. Anybody that speaks to a woman that way and does the things that he does, I have little to no respect for. So that's, I'm just going to call it as I see it here. And if you don't like it, then that's fine. I respect your opinion, but you got to understand that I spent 20 years, 2 decades, fighting evil and taking people like Don Wells off the streets that abuse their significant other and their family. He's a long history of doing that. And if you don't think he does, go and look at some of the things that he's done online. Go and look at the stuff that he does in front of the cameras. Could you imagine what this guy does off camera? So let's just put that, I had to put that out there because that is just, there's so many people that are in love with this guy and think that he's the best thing since sliced bread and that, oh, poor him. No. If my child is missing and I thought that someone abducted her, I'd be on a bullhorn on an ATV all day and all night looking for my daughter. The last time I checked, I never saw this guy once search for his daughter. So, don't get my blood boiling here. I feel strongly about our missing and our children. These are 5-year. You're talking about a 5-year-old kid that's outstanding, and you got the parents acting like complete jagaloons and fools. I have no patience for that, and I don't think anybody here should either. But it doesn't mean that you should be attacking the person and saying the bad things about them. But really, guys, we got to call it as you see it, and that's how I'm doing here.
And the sad thing is you have let's say, hopefully, with this little girl, you have someone that needs help, and the last thing you want to be doing is impairing yourself and, not being there for that. I love what Ron said. Same thing here, and when it comes to, I'm going to tell you something, for people that go in and out of the system, it's crazy because some people live their lives in the prison system where going out is like, okay, but I'm going to eventually go back in, it becomes habitual. If you go to prison or jail and that doesn't straighten you out the first time to the point where it's like, because I know what's behind those walls. Connie knows what's behind those walls, you know, and if that doesn't wake you up to say, hey, I got to do better than this, then your mindset isn't where it needs to be anyway, because, you know, you're sitting there going back and forth into a system. And if that doesn't change you, because that seriously has to be a wake-up call. And if that's not a wake-up call, then it makes me question how you value yourself, the people around you, because at the end, the people that wind up going to prison, the people that suffer are the people that need that person.
Right. Yeah, and that's a big problem. Connie, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, and what really tells that story is the high rates of suicide for people who are firstly incarcerated. The first jailer, the first time they go to jail, that number of people who commit suicide is extremely high, because the wake-up call that you get is so significant, like the shame and everything else associated with, oh my God, I can't believe jail is my life. So for someone who comes and goes and it's okay, like it becomes, I mean, I hate this, it sounds cliche, but they do become institutionalized, and going out is just a part of coming back in. It's not really, I'm going out because I'm going to change life. I'm going out and I'll be back. And, you know, it's a sad and it's a unfortunate cycle that we see in and out of facilities. In this instance, especially with someone who is an alcoholic, you just don't know how much unpredictable behavior, how much impulsive behavior they've had outside in the community, that they happen to just get lucky. Right. And for us, that's getting lucky that he's got a DUI and he's not driving drunk someplace else, possibly able to kill someone.
Connie, if I may, I just want to add on something. I know it's not, if I, out of respect, Ron, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is in the prison system now, the way the changes are going, we have limited accountability. That's the concern. And the problem is there has to be some punitive measure towards rehabilitation, because at one point you could be constructive and make all efforts to teach somebody to change, but it really is accountability. And a lot of people say, well, I love what Connie said, DUI. Well, at least they didn't hurt nobody, but they could have. Yeah. So a lot of the times when someone gets put away is a preventive measure, because if we don't, it could always escalate. It could always get worse. And sometimes you really have to sit the person down and say, you know what, this is where your life's going to be. Now it's about time you're held accountable for your actions. And I think that was powerful, Connie, if I may just compliment what you said.
Yeah, very well said. And you know what, again, people lose, with all the white noise and all the crap that goes on behind this, and this case in particular, a lot of people lose focus on really what is going on here. We have a 5-year-old little kid, little baby, who is missing, who just, as her mom says, just vanished. I went inside, I came out, and she was gone. This is how the mother describes what happened to their daughter. Around this whole predicament, you have the parents acting like fools. And it just doesn't make any kind of sense. If they were out looking and searching and handing out flyers and trying to do constructive things, then I would say, they would gain a lot more public respect. The problem is they're going on YouTube and getting drunk and fighting with each other. It's just I think this little jail bid for him is a good Band-Aid for a big problem that needs more fixing. But again, it's just discouraging when you see people encouraging it and trying to help facilitate more drama at whose expense? At this little girl's expense. Nobody's looking or trying to do anything to find Summer Wells. They're all looking to chase Don and Candace to make them make fools of themselves. So it's really crazy. But I just wanted to go to the chat now, if you guys don't mind. We're getting close to an hour. I want to wrap it up. I want to take some questions, but I have a cheat sheet, as you guys know. I always have the cheat sheet. So some of my great subscribers, some of the channel members sent in questions. And this one comes from Alicia. What is that, Reynolds rap you got there, Angie? Angie?
No, I was taking notes. I was trying to develop a cheat sheet too.
Okay, you're the best, brother. Okay, so this comes in from one of our friends. Prison overcrowding in Hawkins County. Is it possible that this prison could be overcrowded and at their max capacity, where they would have to send him out maybe to an adjacent county like Sullivan County, which coincidentally just had 3 inmates break out and escape. It's a much bigger facility, but does that happen? Do counties lend their prisoners out to others if, let's just say, their facilities at max? Would they send to an adjoining?
I mean, it depends. I mean, we always have different contracts with different facilities, but again, I mean, I don't think you're overcrowding right now would be pretty tough because there's a lot of push to release inmates now due to COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, the state I'm in, we're giving out emergency credits signed by the governor. So for a facility to be overcrowded, the greater concern is going to be the spread for COVID. So I don't really know if a lot of facilities right now are overcrowded because there's a push right now to get inmates out and released.
Like, look, Connie, you know, from you live around the New York metro area. In the wake of COVID-19, Rikers released 1,800 low-level prisoners right after, I think it was like June or July or August of 2020. And everybody in that Queens area in the 5 boroughs were up in arms about it. They took 1,800 inmates and just cut them free, cut them loose.
Yeah, I mean, and I think we ignore the fact that, so yes, I think you want to cut them free. There's tons of arguments, right, surrounding how we let them out and all this other stuff, right? But I think it's one thing to cut them free. It's another thing when they have no access to resources when they get outside. And so then you start to see spike in crime, right? Because they're homeless, they can't get jobs, they can't eat. There's all these other things that come into play when you let them out without necessarily having a plan for what's going to happen to them once they're out.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It does make sense. North Florida Gary sends in a $5 super chat and says, I'm 100% for offering rehabilitation in the jails because if only one actually gets it and maybe saves one life, then it's worth it. I agree. Anthony, will you explain and I did this gazillions of times in past live streams, what's the difference between a jail where Don Wells is and a prison?
Jail is going to hold people that may not be sentenced, or in some cases, I know this one in Tennessee may be a little different, but for the most part, it's a year. It's under a year. Even if they're sentenced, it's under a year. Once they get to a year, the state picks them up. And then at that point, they serve their sentence. So a year or more.
Tennessee, I read Hawkins County holds people up to 24 months. So if you're doing a 2-year little bit, they're holding you there. And they'll let you do your time. That's what I read. That's a
little unique. I think Connie would agree. That's usually it's a year.
Yeah, it's a year unless you have another case that you're battling. So you might have settled on a case where you were sentenced to a year or less. But if you're still going back and forth to court as a detainee, technically on another charge, then they may hold you in the jail until you get your final sentence, and then you'll go to become sort of state property.
Right. When they say I'm part of the state, I'm owned by the state. Anyway, sorry about that.
Is that your tough inmate voice, Ron?
Oh hell no!
Oh, there it is. That's my days working back at a female facility.
All right. This is another question. Can Don be put in protective custody with that? Would it be a life of solitude or solitary confinement? Based on that question, I think that what they're saying is, could he be put in protective custody based on his status? If someone tries to shank him or somebody tries to fight with him, how does that go?
That's tough because you're going to have two types. Well, there's different types of protective custody, So first you're going to have involuntary, where the inmate doesn't want protective custody. So again, I mean, there is going to be some interview with the inmate to see if they even need it. Sometimes the inmates don't want it. So we may decide, administration has decided, doesn't matter what the inmate wants. We have determined that there was a reason to put him in there, in this case here, based on his crime. So we could place him in IVPC, involuntary protective custody. Then there's different levels. There's protective custody, non-congregate, and protective custody congregate. Now, with that said, for him, it's hard because I also have to get the person to program. So you're looking at one-on-one attention.
Right.
You're looking at someone that has to be separated from the population, which winds up costing the facility a lot more money. But the question is, does he want protective custody? Because if he doesn't want it and we can get the inmate to sign off that he doesn't feel he needs it, there's a good chance the administration has some leeway in saying, we offered it, because a lot of people think when you put an inmate in a protective custody, they lose out on things. They don't. They're still given the same privileges. But what we would do is we would interview the inmate to get their request first, and then make a decision between administration and the investigative division to see, is there enough to warrant protective custody. And sometimes if the person doesn't want it, we may say, you know what, that's enough, we just put them in regular. But in this case here, because it's such a high profile, administration may override that. But when they're in PC, they have to be reviewed multiple times. I don't know what their time frame would be, but you're at least maybe every 30 days to see if placement is still warranted, because especially if the person doesn't want to be there. The person doesn't want to be there, you have to look to see, hey, I got to start getting this person out. So it's not an easy thing to do. There's a lot of paperwork involved in putting somebody into PC.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Here's someone asking a question. Does he get his own room? Yeah, I'm gonna highlight that. That's a funny one. Does he get his own room? What is this, a boarding house you think he's in? Marie Mania, I know that I'm making a little fun of it, but I know that it was probably a valid question. No, he doesn't get a private room. There is no room service. It's not the Hilton. It's not Courtyard by Marriott. It is definitely not even Motel 6. We'll leave the light on for you. It's as basic as it gets. It's Anthony, you're around it daily, and I have to make light of this. I got to make people laugh a little bit. But yeah, no, prison is not nice. That's the best way I could describe it. It's not somewhere that you want to go. There's no 300 thread cotton. There's bugs that sometimes crawl around. I'm sure Anthony's crushed a couple of roaches in his time in the
ate a few.
Ate a few. Connie, I'm sure you've seen your fair share of water bugs running around over in Rikers. I've been in and out of there.
Sewer rats at Rikers.
I used to leave there and just be like skeeved out sometimes, you know. But it is what it is. These people are living in there, and you know, that's part of the process that you hope, like Connie said. Unfortunately, it's so shocking that some first timers resort to suicide. Maybe not even inside the facility after they get out. And there's that whole nother figure and statistic that goes on. It does have a lasting effect on the people who make mistakes. We all make mistakes in life, all right? But at the end of the day, prison is not a place, and it shouldn't be a place that is nice. It shouldn't be a place that you want to look forward to going back to. The idea is to keep them from coming back. And unfortunately, you got repeat offenders, and you got folks that are in and out of jail, as Don Wells said, his whole adult life he spent in and out of this system. And it's an unfortunate thing. You know, some people just get used to it, and they're like, oh, here we go again. You know, at least I know I'll have, you know, 3 square meals and whatever. Listen, I feel strongly that, you know, you guys have a lot of questions. You guys got to have definitely a lot of questions. Suicide Watch, Robin, we spoke about it. You got to go back and watch the replay. For those of you who are here, I want to just say quickly, before we wrap up, thank you to the moderators, thank you to the replay viewers, and thank you to the live chatters, because the questions that you ask are so valuable and they're so important. And all the accolades and the thanks that you give to Connie and Anthony, that is just tremendous. So I want to say thank you to you guys. For those of you who got hot under the collar, I understand this is definitely a very high level, heated conversation. It's really hard to talk about Don Wells and not get yourself worked up, because he does so many different things to make you just go and just say,
oh, hell no.
And I am one of those people. I watch and I see some of these things, or I read about what they're doing, and it makes my blood boil. But yeah, I want to say thank you to the replay viewers, the moderators, and everybody who positively engages. Connie, I'm going to let you have the final word on Don Wells and this whole situation.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have to do it to you, and I'm going to go full screen.
So, hey, listen, Don Wells in this situation is just a mess, right? Like, you know, it's unfortunate that this is happening, because it is taking away the attention from the child, which is more important than whatever him and the wife have going on. Ultimately, he's going to go through our system, and he's going to be treated just like anybody else, unless there's something that presents for us to treat him any differently. right? And so in the meantime, if he's gonna detox, if he's going through the program, there's protocols, medical, mental health, all of that in place to make sure that he detoxes safely, like clinically safely, that he's not dehydrated, that he's not going through delirium or not experiencing hallucinations and all the other stuff that's sort of related to that. So, you know, if anything, it's like, yeah, this is something that we talk about, but ultimately he's going to be like just like any other inmate. And hopefully, he comes out of this safely and clean, right? Which is really what the 28-day mandate was for.
Yeah, that's what we hope for. But again, as an adult and as a human being, you make your own decisions. And up until this point, the decisions haven't been great. And maybe maybe this will be that final time. And that's what we hope and pray for. But I also want to just say quickly, too, I want to add into this this mix. If if you're feeling sad or sorry for this family, there's ways that you can help them. But there are also ways that you can hurt them. And some people, by enabling them or sending them money or doing things like that, if they don't have their stuff together and they're using drugs and alcohol and you're sending them money, the chances are they're not going to use that money to continue with their vice that they're fighting, right? So if you want to help them by sending them food, then send them food. That would be a good thing to do. Don't send them just random pieces of, here's $50, here's $100. You don't know what the hell they're going to do with it. So that's what I used to do when I was a police officer. Instead of giving a homeless guy $50 or $20 or $10, I would go and get him food and I would hand it to him and be like, here's a meal. Because I know that, and even if he's not going to eat it, he's going to save it and eat it later. That's going to be better than me handing him a $20 bill and him going and buying four cracks. I just don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So that's just my suggestion. Anthony, anything about final words for, and I'm going to go full screen with you. So you better just bitch it up, boy.
Yeah.
Anything for the troops from the correction side?
Yeah, again, I love what you said before. I think it's a profession that is not appreciated. So it's great to be on the show and let people see another perspective, to have people on like me and Connie who can give you a perspective, an honest perspective that's different than the inmate ran channels that YouTube seems to love to promote. So I'm honored that you had me and Connie on the show. And if anybody gets a chance, if you want to know anything about the corrections profession, we do live shows once in a while too. We'll answer everything. If you have someone that's incarcerated, we could tell you maybe how to make their life a little bit easier by doing things the right way, ways that you can work with administration as well as custody. So you can maybe, do what you can for your loved one. And for those that did subscribe, I saw a bunch of people cross over. It's greatly appreciated. Everything we talk about, guys, on my channel doesn't just apply to prison, guys. We talk about things that apply to any profession because we're not that different, guys. So thank you for your time. And Ron, I just really appreciate what you do, everything you do. Thank you.
Yes, you're quite welcome. And you know what? It's an honor to be friends with both of you guys. I'm so happy that we met. I don't even know how it happened. I think I just stumbled across your YouTube channel. So I think it was pretty organic.
You were my one view that day.
It is what it is. I want to encourage all 1,162 people that are still here remaining. Go over to Tier Talk. I'm going to link it down below in the description. I already have all of Connie's stuff, and I believe it is Tier Talk is linked in the description of this video. I think I did it already after Connie scolded me this morning.
Oh my God, I'm never going to live it down.
Connie, I have to do it. Hold on. That's what I heard this morning. I woke up, and this was shots fired in my kitchen, right? Connie gets on the horn with me. Hold on a second. And after those shots were fired, this is what I heard.
Oh, gnarly.
Yeah. So Connie sends me a message this morning, and she goes, Ron, I'm going to be on the show with you too. I had in the title just that Anthony was coming on. So Connie, it wasn't even a good morning. It was like, I'm going to show it. Where is it? Can I show it, Connie? Connie was like,
Oh, hell no.
Ron, you know when I found out about that,
my
Ron?
name in this video? How dare you, DutyRon?
Oh, hell no.
Ron, you know when I found out about that? So I'm very rude, to be honest with you. Listen, I called her at I have
6
an hour
o'clock in
40
the morning.
Yeah, I have an hour 40-minute ride to work every day. I live up north and I drive to Central. So I got bored about an hour through. So I said, let me call Connie. So I call her. She's just getting up, and the first thing she said was, "Yo, I'm a correctional professional too." I said, "I know. I'm sure you are. What's going on?" DutyRon. I said, "Oh shit." She saw it.
Man. There you go. Oh wait, I'm gonna take it back. She said, "Morning, Ron.
See?
Can you add my name to the blurb for tonight's show? Thank you." And I said, and then she said, and she gave me a copy of the title and the show, the scheduled show. She screenshotted it or whatever and sent me. She goes, Anthony's not the only expert you have on. I was like,
hey, it was all fun and games now, Connie. Not that. Hey, I will say, Ron, you know what?
Connie. I love that she was able to do that with me because we're friends.
Ron, I think you're going to love this, Ron, I think. So not the last episode we did, but the episode we talked about dating in the workplace, and kind of letting people know why you can't do it.
Yes.
Connie actually, she knows it. Connie actually admitted on the show, nope, Connie, stop. I have to let it out there, and I'm married. But Connie said in the middle of the show, guys, and it's there, "I love you, Gangi." That's what she said.
But she meant it in a loving way, not that she loves you and she wants to take you out.
Oh, man, could, take it
You're getting ahead of yourself. You're getting ahead of yourself, big guy. Anyways, all right, guys, let me reel it in. Thank you so much, Connie, Alleyne from the Civilian Corrections Academy, co-host of Tier Talk, Anthony Gangi, host of Tier Talk. Thank you, guys, for being here. I want to say a special thank you to everybody that has already subscribed. If you're not yet subscribed to my channel and to Tier Talk, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, give this video a thumbs up, share it onto your social media. Go over to DutyRon.com where you can get all things DutyRon. Connie's books there. Anthony's stuff is all linked on my website. Also, please, if you're a channel member, send me a message. I'll add you to my Discord. The Discord group is for channel members. Also, I have a Facebook group for channel members. Tell me you're a channel member, and I'll add you to that group. Guys, good night from New York. Love and respect from my house to yours. God bless the world. God bless the United States of America. God bless each and every one of us here in the chat, but especially all victims of crime and their families across the globe. Good night, guys. Thank you for joining.
Good night.